The heavy pen decisively glided across the legal document, stripping away my inheritance rights forever. My name is Zara, a 27-year-old woman who just officially severed all ties with her bloodline. I maintained a completely cold expression while applying pressure to complete that final binding signature. This ink officially erased my existence from the family trust, along with any connection to the people who raised me. My younger brother immediately snatched the thick stack of documents from the table with an incredibly triumphant smirk. He wasted no time herding our parents out toward the parking lot to celebrate his ultimate victory. Right as they confidently crossed the expansive marble lobby, the smartphone resting inside his coat pocket suddenly erupted with a relentless ringing tone. This unexpectedly loud noise completely shattered the ecstatic celebratory atmosphere they had established moments prior. He casually answered the call on speakerphone while expecting a congratulatory message from his lawyer. Instead of praise, the terrified voice of the actress he secretly hired blasted through the speaker with sheer panic. She desperately screamed at him to halt the entire legal signing process immediately because she discovered a horrifying truth. Has she signed yet? Do not let her sign anything. We walked into a massive trap. Cancel it immediately. The arrogant smile on his face instantly vanished as profound terror caused his entire body to freeze in shock. He finally realized his elaborate plan to frame me had triggered his own devastating financial ruin. True personal strength requires setting impenetrable boundaries whenever your family chooses ruthless greed over loyalty. What would you do if your relatives hired a stranger to completely destroy your life? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe to the channel. Let us rewind the clock to uncover how this brilliant trap was executed. About 14 months before the devastating storm officially destroyed our fabricated, peaceful existence, I officially assumed complete control over the administrative financial systems. I am Zara, a 27-year-old woman, dedicating every ounce of my physical energy toward managing the complex cash flow logistics. My daily reality revolved entirely around securing massive distribution contracts for our family packaging materials processing plant located within Richmond, Virginia. Instead of prioritizing a romantic life or seeking marriage like many peers, I focused exclusively on building a sustainable corporate foundation. My entire existence was deeply rooted in analyzing massive economic spreadsheets to ensure our manufacturing facilities operated at peak efficiency throughout every fiscal quarter. The survival of our enterprise relied heavily upon my meticulous oversight regarding raw material procurement, alongside maintaining positive relationships with international suppliers. My younger brother Mason possessed a completely contrasting mindset regarding professional responsibilities, while harboring an intense craving for the chief executive position. He severely lacked the basic analytical skills required to manage a corporate entity, but desperately wanted the public prestige associated with that specific leadership title. Skipping vital strategic planning sessions became his routine habit to attend lavish social gatherings while expecting everyone to treat him like a seasoned industry expert. This burning desire for ultimate authority did not stem from mere ambition, but rather from absolute desperation regarding his catastrophic personal financial decisions. Pouring his private funds into highly volatile investments resulted in massive capital losses he could no longer conceal from his creditors. Major banking institutions relentlessly bombarded his private residence with aggressive foreclosure warnings detailing the imminent seizure of his remaining luxury assets. Those aggressive legal notices pushed him entirely to the absolute brink of total bankruptcy, without any legitimate method of financial recovery available. Escaping that suffocating mountain of personal debt required him to utilize any manipulative tactic necessary to rapidly seize complete control over our corporate bank accounts. He urgently needed to secure the highest executive authority to quietly siphon substantial corporate funds to settle his disastrous private obligations before everything publicly collapsed. The immense pressure of losing his carefully crafted wealthy persona turned him into a cornered predator, willing to sacrifice his own flesh for self-preservation. My mother and my father blindly placed their absolute trust in their precious son, despite his glaring professional incompetence constantly threatening our corporate stability. They deliberately ignored the alarming financial deficit reports I consistently placed on their desks, detailing the exact monetary damages caused by his reckless corporate spending. My parents intentionally turned a blind eye to his blatant misconduct while silently endorsing his subtle campaigns to slowly push me out of the administrative hierarchy. They essentially agreed to sacrifice my legitimate career progression solely to clear an unobstructed path for his unearned executive promotion. Whenever I presented concrete evidence highlighting his unauthorized withdrawals, they immediately dismissed my legitimate concerns as mere sibling jealousy. This incredibly toxic dynamic shifted drastically when my grandmother Lois decided to firmly intervene after quietly observing the deteriorating situation from her independent position. She currently held 40% of the core corporate shares, making her the ultimate deciding factor regarding the future executive leadership transition. She fully recognized my genuine dedication to the factory, while seeing right through his deceptive facade without any hesitation. Preparing official legal documents with her attorneys became her priority to formally transfer her dominant voting power directly to me. Realizing his only chance at corporate salvation was rapidly slipping away, prompted him to execute an incredibly reckless countermeasure. He secretly utilized an untraceable corporate slush fund to hire an amateur actress named Emerson to orchestrate a devastating smear campaign against my professional integrity. His primary intention involved fabricating a scandal so severe that my parents would be forced to permanently disown me to protect their public reputation. That Friday evening, inside a completely private seafood restaurant room, officially marked the explosive climax of his deceptive campaign. Mason dedicated several preceding weeks deliberately planting toxic seeds of doubt regarding my professional integrity into their highly susceptible minds. He carefully manufactured a convincing narrative suggesting I was secretly siphoning corporate profits to fund a lavish hidden lifestyle far away from their strict supervision. My parents slowly absorbed his daily poisonous whispers without ever confronting me directly to verify those incredibly alarming financial allegations. Their growing suspicion created an incredibly tense psychological atmosphere, perfectly primed for the devastating theatrical performance he was actively preparing to execute against me. Our supposedly peaceful family dinner rapidly transformed into a chaotic tribunal the exact moment Mason unexpectedly brought Emerson inside the reserved dining space. She aggressively threw a massive stack of forged electronic correspondence alongside highly manipulated corporate bank statements directly onto the polished wooden table. Emerson confidently introduced herself as my secret romantic partner, while falsely claiming we spent the past 2 entire years orchestrating a massive corporate embezzlement scheme together. She delivered her fabricated testimony with remarkable theatrical precision, designed to maximize the emotional shock value upon her easily manipulated audience. My parents immediately swallowed every single fabricated lie because those fraudulent documents perfectly validated the malicious rumors Mason previously established during his persistent whispering campaign. They felt an overwhelming sense of profound humiliation believing my supposed financial crimes, alongside a secret same-sex relationship, permanently destroyed our prestigious social standing within the local business community forever. My father violently slammed his heavy fist against the table surface before unleashing his uncontrollable verbal fury directly upon me. "You completely disgrace this entire family because I cannot ever accept a fraudulent daughter engaging in such a sick relationship like you," he roared with pure disgust. I immediately pushed my chair back to stand up to fiercely confront those ridiculous allegations utilizing undeniable factual accounting evidence. Before I could articulate a single defensive sentence, Mason forcefully lunged across the narrow dining space to physically silence my desperate protests. He aggressively grabbed my right arm with immense brutality before violently hoisting my entire body upward from the seating position. This sudden application of excessive physical force caused my shoulder joint to painfully dislocate with a truly sickening popping sound echoing across the silent room. Extreme physical agony rapidly radiated through my entire torso while I helplessly collapsed back down, clutching my severely injured shoulder. He completely ignored my visible physical suffering while throwing a legally binding corporate transfer document right in front of my tearful face. "Sign this transfer document immediately and get out of the factory, or I will call the police to arrest you for embezzlement," Mason hissed through his tightly clenched teeth. I desperately looked toward my parents, expecting them to intervene against this blatant display of physical domestic violence occurring right before their very eyes. My mother coldly turned her face away toward the opposite wall, while my father silently crossed his arms in absolute agreement with his aggressive son. They explicitly endorsed his violent extortion tactics while demonstrating a chilling willingness to permanently discard their own daughter just to protect their fragile public image. Enduring such profound betrayal from my own flesh and blood pushed my exhausted mind into a dark corner of absolute defensive submission. The intense throbbing pain radiating from my dislocated joint severely compromised my ability to formulate a coherent logical defense against their highly coordinated attack. I stared silently at the aggressive legal paperwork, realizing my biological family preferred believing a comforting lie over investigating a harsh truth regarding their precious son. The following Monday morning arrived with a harsh reality when I discovered my parents had completely deactivated my corporate security access. Standing before the main glass doors of the facility I helped build felt incredibly surreal, as the electronic scanner repeatedly flashed a red denial signal. They officially banned me from stepping foot inside the administrative office building without offering even a single opportunity for a formal defense. Rather than wasting my energy crying over their ruthless betrayal in the parking lot, I immediately returned to my vehicle with a clear purpose. I carefully packed my encrypted personal backup hard drive containing vital company records before driving directly toward the private office belonging to my lawyer and best friend, Curtis. Curtis welcomed me into his sanctuary and immediately offered profound emotional support after seeing my severely bruised shoulder resting inside a medical sling. He patiently listened to every horrifying detail regarding the violent physical altercation alongside the fabricated embezzlement accusations presented during that disastrous family dinner. Having known my professional dedication for years made him incredibly furious about the disgusting theatrical production my brother weaponized against my reputation. He firmly promised to utilize his extensive background in digital forensics to completely expose the malicious financial conspiracy they successfully executed. Initiating the digital investigation quickly revealed that extracting the necessary electronic evidence would require navigating an exceptionally hostile technological environment. Mason clearly anticipated my potential retaliation and deliberately hired external professionals to orchestrate a highly sophisticated data cover-up across the entire corporate network. He methodically wiped the internal communication history before encrypting the main financial server using a complex security protocol designed to permanently bury his illicit activities. Breaking through those fortified digital walls required bypassing multiple authentication layers without triggering the automated security alarms programmed to destroy compromised files. You must remain absolutely calm, because making a single mistake during this decryption process will trigger the system to automatically overwrite all metadata permanently, Curtis stated tensely while his fingers rapidly struck the mechanical keyboard. Sitting beside his glowing monitors, watching the complex algorithmic code scroll across the dark screen generated an overwhelming sense of suffocating anxiety. The immense pressure of knowing my entire professional future depended entirely upon his ability to bypass those digital tripwires kept the room in absolute silence. Every passing minute felt like an eternity as we carefully navigated through the heavily encrypted corporate network searching for a hidden backdoor. We spent several agonizing hours engaging in a relentless digital battle against the heavy security layers protecting those hidden financial records. His immense technical expertise eventually fractured the primary firewall, which allowed him to successfully restore the intentionally deleted server metadata from an overlooked temporary folder. This crucial recovery effort provided the exact digital footprints we desperately needed to trace a specific Internet Protocol address back to its original source. He successfully tracked a massive electronic fund transfer, originating directly from a concealed offshore banking account completely controlled by Mason. The restored digital ledger clearly displayed the undeniable transaction routing numbers, sending that illicit payment straight into a personal account registered under Emerson. Holding that freshly printed financial statement felt incredibly empowering because it finally provided concrete, undeniable proof regarding their filthy criminal collusion. This irrefutable paper trail completely shattered their meticulously crafted narrative by verifying the supposed romantic relationship alongside the embezzlement accusations were entirely purchased services. Having this explosive truth in my possession tempted me to immediately drive back to my parents to shove the documents directly into their faces. However, we consciously decided to maintain complete silence for the moment to prevent him from discovering our successful digital breach. We needed to strategically orchestrate a legally destructive counterattack capable of permanently neutralizing his stolen executive power without leaving him any possible escape route. That Wednesday afternoon arrived, bringing a profound sense of determination as Curtis drove our vehicle directly toward the heavily gated private estate belonging to Lois. We walked straight into her expansive study and immediately presented the freshly decrypted digital dossiers containing undeniable proof regarding the elaborate extortion conspiracy. I watched silently as Lois meticulously reviewed every single fraudulent electronic bank transfer alongside the hired actor contracts without displaying any outward signs of immediate emotional distress. Despite experiencing immense internal fury regarding his blatant betrayal against our corporate legacy, she maintained a terrifyingly composed demeanor to formulate a strategic countermeasure. She fully understood that simply exposing his dirty tactics to my parents would only create an endless cycle of family arguments without imposing any actual consequences. Taking decisive action required utilizing the rigid structure of corporate law to permanently neutralize his ability to ever threaten our manufacturing enterprise again. She firmly instructed Curtis to heavily modify the standard asset relinquishment paperwork Mason aggressively demanded I sign to finalize his hostile corporate takeover. Her brilliant legal strategy involved transforming his primary instrument of theft into an inescapable financial prison, utilizing his own overwhelming arrogance against him. I will allow him to successfully obtain her signature, but this specific contract must inherently include a strict non-extortion clause alongside mandatory supervision from an independent auditing firm, Lois explicitly commanded with absolute authority. Curtis rapidly typed the necessary legal jargon on his laptop to seamlessly embed this lethal financial trap deeply within the dense paragraphs of the corporate transfer agreement. This newly weaponized legal document explicitly stipulated that whoever accepted the controlling shares legally verified the absolute legitimate origin of all associated corporate wealth. The hidden contingency firmly dictated that discovering any underlying fraudulent activity would automatically trigger an immediate evidence submission to federal tax agencies and independent auditors. Furthermore, the specialized clauses guaranteed that any individual caught manipulating the share transfer through extortion would immediately forfeit their entire inheritance rights without any possibility of appeal. Lois utilized her dominant shareholder status to covertly authorize these binding stipulations without requiring any prior notification or approval from my parents or the current executive board. Securing her official executive authorization effectively transformed a simple relinquishment form into a highly volatile legal landmine, waiting patiently for a greedy target to step forward. Printing the final version of the modified contract provided a profound sense of silent vindication after enduring days of intense psychological abuse from my own bloodline. Armed with this perfectly engineered legal weapon resting securely inside a manila folder, I took a deep breath before dialing the personal phone number belonging to Mason. Knowing he expected total submission after his violent performance at the restaurant, I deliberately manipulated my vocal tone to project extreme psychological exhaustion. I intentionally made my voice tremble while mimicking the authentic sound of someone completely defeated by his relentless psychological warfare and overwhelming fabricated evidence. All right. You finally win because tomorrow morning I will bring the required papers to the legal office where I will sign everything away completely. I stated weakly to successfully lure him into our trap. Mason eagerly accepted my fabricated surrender with a highly arrogant chuckle while explicitly demanding I arrive precisely at 9 o'clock without causing any further embarrassing complications. He spoke with the unbearable confidence of a victorious conqueror who genuinely believed his ruthless deception had flawlessly secured him absolute control over our family fortune. He remained entirely blinded by his overwhelming personal greed and desperate need for financial salvation to realize he just gleefully scheduled his own total destruction. Hanging up the phone felt incredibly liberating because the intricate snare was officially set to capture the exact person actively trying to ruin my professional career. That fateful Thursday morning arrived, bringing a suffocating tension inside the corporate legal office, where everyone eagerly awaited my formal surrender. Stepping through the heavy mahogany doors with my right arm still firmly secured inside a medical sling drew immediate hostile reactions. My parents occupied the luxurious leather chairs across the polished conference table, shooting glares filled with absolute disgust toward my direction. They aggressively urged me to rapidly conclude this supposed family disgrace without offering any sympathetic words regarding my visible physical injuries. Mason leaned forward, displaying an incredibly arrogant smirk before forcefully sliding the modified relinquishment documents directly toward my uninjured left hand. Read everything carefully because if you try anything stupid today, I will personally use your fraudulent emails to throw you into federal prison immediately, Mason threatened menacingly. Enduring his pathetic intimidation attempt required maintaining complete silence while focusing my attention entirely upon the underlying legal trap hidden within those dense paragraphs. The suffocating silence dominating the room felt incredibly heavy as I meticulously reviewed the pages to ensure the lethal clauses remained perfectly intact before applying my name. My mother tapped her manicured fingers impatiently against her designer handbag while whispering complaints about my slow reading speed, wasting their valuable celebratory time. Gripping the expensive metal pen awkwardly with my left hand demanded significant physical concentration to press down firmly against the designated signature lines. Every decisive stroke of black ink finalizing the asset transfer simultaneously activated the hidden federal auditing provisions he blindly overlooked due to his overwhelming financial greed. He remained entirely oblivious to the explosive corporate landmine currently ticking beneath his feet because his desperation for executive power clouded his basic reading comprehension. Snatching the completed paperwork directly from my fingertips brought a genuinely triumphant laugh escaping from his throat as he proudly inspected the binding signatures. He loudly declared my permanent removal from the family lineage before immediately ushering my parents out toward the parking lot for an expensive celebratory luncheon. Watching their retreating figures walk confidently toward the elevator lobby provided a profound sense of silent vindication, knowing their victory was nothing but a fragile illusion. While they enthusiastically marched toward their luxury vehicles expecting absolute wealth, Curtis initiated the secondary phase of our destructive counterattack from his private investigation office. He systematically forwarded a comprehensive digital dossier containing the forged communication records, alongside the illicit offshore banking transfers, directly to the terrified actress involved. He deliberately attached the recovered metadata logs proving the fraudulent nature of their arrangement to guarantee she understood the absolute futility of denying her criminal involvement. The meticulously organized evidence file explicitly detailed her exact financial compensation for delivering that theatrical performance during our disastrous dinner confrontation last week. Following the massive email transmission with a direct phone call ensured Emerson fully comprehended the catastrophic legal consequences rapidly approaching her doorstep. I have submitted every single coordinated text message between you two directly to the financial authorities, making you the perfect scapegoat for his bankruptcy debts. Curtis informed Emerson coldly over the secure line. Hearing those terrifying words outlining her imminent arrest shattered her false confidence entirely, while exposing the brutal reality of her foolish participation in this extortion scheme. Realizing she was actively being framed to absorb massive federal prison sentences on behalf of the primary mastermind triggered an overwhelming wave of absolute psychological terror. She frantically ended the call with Curtis before immediately dialing the mobile device, currently resting securely inside the suit pocket of her arrogant employer. Her desperate screaming transmitted through his phone speaker perfectly aligned with the exact chaotic scene playing out during the opening moments of this devastating familial conflict. Within the following 72 hours, the undeniable truth exploded not in a sudden flash, but through a systematically cold, destructive process designed to permanently dismantle his fabricated corporate empire. The very next morning, a massive independent auditing team explicitly dispatched by Lois unexpectedly raided the corporate headquarters to secure the corporate premises with absolute zero tolerance for any internal interference. They moved with terrifying professional efficiency across the executive floor to permanently seal every primary computer server alongside all the physical accounting ledgers stored within the administrative archives. This highly coordinated federal intervention immediately paralyzed the entire manufacturing operation, while specialized investigators began meticulously extracting the concealed offshore transaction records we previously uncovered during our private investigation. We currently possess a strict federal warrant to freeze all your financial assets following an urgent request from the Federal Auditing Agency regarding suspected severe contract fraud. The lead banking representative coldly informed Mason. Hearing that official banking declaration caused the arrogant smirk to permanently vanish from his face, as the crushing reality of his failed extortion scheme finally materialized before his horrified eyes during that chaotic morning. The immediate execution of that devastating asset freeze effectively stripped away his stolen executive authority before he could even begin enjoying his newly acquired corporate leadership position inside the manufacturing facility. Before the sheer magnitude of his frozen bank accounts fully registered within his panicked mind, specialized financial crimes investigators marched directly into his luxurious office, presenting an emergency arrest warrant. These relentless federal officers explicitly charged him with organizing large-scale commercial extortion, alongside fabricating critical financial documents to deliberately manipulate a legitimate corporate ownership transition, utilizing forged electronic signatures. My parents experienced a state of absolute psychological devastation upon finally comprehending the undeniable truth behind those meticulously falsified embezzlement accusations recently weaponized against my professional integrity last week. The investigating detectives presented them with undeniable documentary proof detailing how their precious son secretly orchestrated the entire theatrical performance solely to salvage his disastrous personal bankruptcy situation. They stood entirely paralyzed in complete horror while watching the armed authorities physically escort their golden child away in handcuffs, while the remaining corporate employees witnessed the ultimate public humiliation. Realizing they willingly sacrificed their fiercely loyal daughter to protect a deceitful criminal completely shattered their fragile social ego while simultaneously exposing their profound parental failure to the entire city. Witnessing the complete catastrophic collapse of their cherished public family image prompted my mother to desperately call my personal phone while sobbing uncontrollably through the mobile receiver. "Zara, please tell the investigating officers this entire situation is just a massive misunderstanding so you can withdraw the formal charges because we are still a family," my mother pleaded desperately. Listening to her pathetic begging pouring through the digital speaker generated a profound sense of emotional disgust rather than the sympathetic forgiveness she desperately expected to receive from me. Her hypocritical plea for familial unity arrived entirely too late, considering she previously watched him physically dislocate my shoulder without offering a single word of maternal protection or basic empathy. I maintained absolute silence while processing her frantic apologies before decisively ending the cellular connection without uttering a single responsive syllable to acknowledge her sudden profound regret regarding her past actions. Hanging up that mobile device officially finalized my absolute emotional detachment from the highly toxic individuals who willingly discarded my entire existence to protect a fabricated wealthy illusion. I immediately directed my legal representation to submit a comprehensive permanent restraining order through the local courthouse to legally prohibit any further communication attempts from those deceitful relatives. Severing every remaining communication channel permanently forced them to bear the overwhelming weight of their catastrophic legal consequences, entirely alone, without ever utilizing my financial protection again. 6 agonizing months have officially passed since the final courthouse gavel permanently closed this devastating chapter of my life. Mason formally received a mandatory 5-year federal prison sentence for orchestrating that massive commercial extortion scheme alongside his fraudulent electronic banking manipulations. My parents were completely forced to liquidate their entire personal asset portfolio to desperately compensate for the catastrophic financial damages directly caused by their precious son. They eventually filed for absolute bankruptcy after losing the manufacturing facility, leaving them completely destitute while facing the harsh reality of their own blinding parental favoritism. The presiding judge explicitly directed severe professional scrutiny toward the banking executives who initially enabled his reckless corporate behavior without conducting proper due diligence. Standing at the emotional crossroads between enjoying a vengeful victory alongside letting go of my traumatic past required significant internal reflection regarding my future path. I ultimately realized that securing profound inner peace held significantly more value than actively gloating over the spectacular downfall of those highly toxic individuals. I did not merely defeat them in a legal battle, but rather I successfully escaped their suffocating manipulation to finally reclaim my absolute personal autonomy. Partnering directly with Lois allowed me to utilize my legitimate capital to establish a brand new independent data analytics firm located within a completely different state. Building this completely autonomous lifestyle far away from their toxic influence finally provided the safe environment I desperately needed to thrive without constantly looking over my shoulder. I completely stopped feeling guilty about prioritizing my own mental health over maintaining a hollow illusion of a perfectly united family demanding my constant financial sacrifices. Waking up every single morning inside a peaceful home, completely devoid of calculated deception, remains the greatest reward I could have ever possibly achieved. My current reality stands as a powerful testament to the undeniable importance of utilizing established legal frameworks to permanently eliminate deeply entrenched abusive dynamics. Recognizing the fundamental difference between genuine familial love alongside systematic financial abuse remains absolutely essential for maintaining basic personal self-respect throughout your entire lifetime. Representing this channel, we specifically produced this particular narrative for vital educational purposes regarding the absolute necessity of establishing strict personal boundaries. This story clearly demonstrates how effectively handling a massive family crisis requires maintaining logical composure alongside utilizing appropriate legal frameworks. Evaluating the situation objectively reveals how the female protagonist demonstrated remarkable courage by decisively protecting her personal well-being through executing a total communication cutoff against her abusers. Conversely, the antagonists ultimately suffered the severe inevitable consequences resulting directly from their own malicious decisions, proving that systematic manipulation always guarantees complete financial devastation. We can extract several profoundly important lessons from her difficult journey regarding the permanent preservation of your basic human dignity against toxic relatives. Firstly, achieving absolute financial independence remains the strongest protective steel armor, shielding you against any malicious emotional manipulation orchestrated by those weaponizing their biological familial status. Secondly, allowing blind familial loyalty to continuously transform your existence into a convenient scapegoat for internal household conflicts will inevitably lead toward a devastating personal tragedy. Finally, choosing to permanently walk away from a highly deceitful bloodline never represents a selfish moral failure, but rather constitutes an incredibly brave defensive action to save your own life. We sincerely thank our dedicated audience for patiently listening to the very end of this incredibly complex family drama. We deeply appreciate your continuous support regarding our mission to share these important educational narratives. If you faced similar coercive betrayal from your own blood relatives, what specific defensive actions would you immediately take? Please share your valuable thoughts in the comment section below, alongside subscribing to our channel.